Man, what's shaking? This is Matty Crypto. This is episode number 7 of the Pulsechain Podcast. And for those of you that may not know about Hex and the Pulsechain ecosystem, you may not have heard of Motley Investor, but those of you that have been around even for a week or so into this, you probably know this guy. He's been around Hex. I don't know. I feel like it's the entire 2 years that I've known about Hex. This guy's been involved in everything with Telegram and YouTube and Twitter. He's a face that you're going to recognize. Motley Investor. I'm happy about this because we're going to go over not just Hex and crypto, but something really exciting coming up in the next couple of days is this Hex Nascar event. Motley, thanks for joining me today, brother. I appreciate it.
What's up, Matty? How are you doing?
Good, man. Very, very good. I mentioned that you're kind of a known figure in Hex.
No.
and there's so many people that are synonymous with Hex, and you've been around for such a long period of time. And you know so many people that are involved with Hex. I think it's important to kind of preface any interview or guest that may not be aware of Hex and may find this for the first time. And they may hop on this podcast as their first introduction to anything Hex and Pulse related. So for anybody that is new to this and may not know about you, I'd like for you to kind of give them the scoop of your background and who Motley was before you got into crypto.
Yeah, because it's completely shifted over the past 2 years. I'm a very, very different person from where I started this journey to where I am today. So we do tend to forget, right? Like we're such a close-knit community. We forget that we do have these new people coming in that aren't necessarily familiar with us or what we've been up to for the past 2+ years. So yeah, Motley Investor. My real name is Clay. I got into crypto back in around mid to late 2016 before the 2017 really ramped up. I got into mining. Before I got into crypto, I've always kind of been on that search for passive income. So that started with real estate, stocks, precious metals, not really a good form of passive income, but anything to kind of get ahead, right? To get ahead, hopefully retire soon, go do stuff I enjoyed, traveling, what have you. I was in the Navy for 9 years, so that was a way that I was able to do traveling. I also used stuff like the VA loan benefits to buy multi-unit properties to get into the real estate game. But like I said, in 2016, 2017, I kind of stumbled. I already knew about Bitcoin early on, but I don't think my financial IQ was quite there where it needed to be to see the opportunity that Bitcoin was. So I missed out on Bitcoin, missed out on Ethereum. But as mid to late 2016 started going, I was just like, okay, I'm not going to miss those opportunities again. Let me get into this new asset class because I saw the growth and the opportunity there. And I heard that you could mine this stuff out of thin air. And I was just like, oh, that sounds interesting. Kind of fit the narrative of what I was looking for. Passive income. I could mine this magic internet money out of thin air if I just learned how to build this GPU mining rig. So I went down the rabbit hole because I figured out the bare requirements of what I needed for a miner. So I bought $10,000 worth of mining equipment and then learned that it's a lot harder to troubleshoot and put everything together because I was never a big computer guy before. So I was learning 2 different languages at the time, computer, just geek computer knowledge and then crypto knowledge. So it's 2 foreign languages, trying to figure out how to make all this stuff work. It was kind of the best thing I could ever do because I invested all my capital into it. So I was already I was vested. I wasn't going anywhere. And then I was in forums, I was chatting with people, and I just learned. So I built these rigs, started mining Ethereum, started learning about how to mine these other coins, pre-mining back in the day. So I could, I didn't really strike it big with any of those. I think Electronome, I don't even remember these names. Electronium, there we go. Yeah, I crushed it on that one. I think that was the big pre-mine that I did well on. But yeah, so I did that. Just like everyone else, I was always chasing the pump. I was always coming in late to these coins, and then they would just die. 2017, everything was just dying off. And so eventually, I got tired of just getting wrecked in crypto. I was like, all right, let me move all my money into the blue chips of crypto, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I just left it there. Went back to my first passion, real estate, focused on that, acquired more multi-unit buildings, and then just went on my way, finishing up my career in the Navy, acquiring more real estate, and I left it aside. And then I came across an interview with Doug Polk and Richard Hart. That was the first time that I found Richard. They essentially had an interview, and it kind of turned into a little bit of a debate of why poker was Richard Hart believed poker was a negative sum game. And I really liked poker at the time. I was following Doug Polk because he was a poker player and he was in crypto. And by the end of the interview, when I first saw Richard, I was like, okay, this dude was weird. He had long hair at the time. He had a shirt on that looked like a 70s like floral couch. He was in a throne.
Do you have a top hat?
No top hat. No top hat on this one. But still that outlandish, over-the-top character that we know and love today. And I'm just sitting there and I was listening to him. And by the end of it, he made like a lot of good points. I mean, I played poker since I could like crawl. So I love poker. And I was just like, yeah, he brought up a lot of valid points. This guy's very intelligent. And I realized early on, when you surround yourself with intelligent people and you recognize that intelligence and you follow them, you're going to learn, right? You're going to learn, good things come from it. So I just started following him ever since. And then just went on his journey of, he started talking about trying to create his own token. And first it was the CFD token, which used the computation that like say Bitcoin does, and it's used for nothing, right? It's just waste. It's just proof of work. And I was like, okay, that makes some sense. Like, let's not just waste the energy. Let's use it towards some sort of mathematical computation, use it for engineering, what have you. So that makes sense. I wasn't super thrilled with it. I was going to invest in it, more of the man behind it, the founder. And then he came up with Hex. And at the time he called it like Bitcoin Hex. But it just clicked. As soon as he came up with Bitcoin Hex and started the monetization of time, and like we started to learn about all the pieces of what Hex was going to be, I was just like, oh, this is it. I was like, this is that opportunity that I've been waiting for, that I missed out on Bitcoin, that I missed out on Ethereum. And I was just like, this is my third chance. Like, right. You only get so many of those life-changing opportunities throughout your life. You get maybe 1, 2. For me, I was lucky enough to have 3. And when I saw it, I was just like, okay, I'm not missing this one. So went all in, been there since day one. Like you said, in the Telegrams, in YouTube, in Twitter. And this community is just so close knit. We've gone through so much over the past 2 years. We've all kind of like grown together. So it's been one hell of a ride. And this has become like my new passion, my new goals. Everything I do in life now is focused around this community. And maybe it has something to do with locking up your assets for the next 15 years. Like, where else are you going to go, right?
Yeah, and that's funny because all of us that are in Hex, most people, even the new people, they hear about the 5555, and even if you don't have a whole lot of money to put into something like this, assets, a lot of people will do that 5555, even if it's just 100 Hex or 1,000 Hex or whatever, just to be a part of that. And the yield that you get as opposed to doing a 30-day or even a 1-year stake, that 5555 is crazy lucrative. So, you're right. I feel like it is a family. We invest in that long-term horizon. We believe in this. It's not going anywhere. It's immutable. It's code. It's math. And that's the brilliant thing about it. You mentioned also about Richard Hart and finding this and kind of knowing right away. It's like, this is going to be something real. And that's the way I felt too. I remember talking to him back when it was the Bitcoin Hex and looking at the website, the hex.com, and thinking at first I was like,
that
God, it felt so complicated, man. All the details, like pre-launch. Remember how many little things, if you looked at the site, like as far as tokenomics and he called them pumpamentals, how many of those were engaged? I was like, man, because I tried to figure out, how can I do this? And if I got Bitcoin, I can get this much Hex. And at the time, it was every Bitcoin you'd get 10,000 Hex. And you don't know what you don't know. I was thinking, wow, 10,000 Hex is going to be incredible to get. But then looking at it, my previous podcast, I mentioned to Jim Rat and Hex Luther that for about $125, there were times in the adoption amplifier when that would get you like 1.3 million Hex. So that once it launched, I figured how much you could get. Isn't that crazy to look back now thinking, man, just for $100, man, you could have been like life-changing Hex wealth.
Yeah. No, it's amazing looking back on it now. And like you said, with the Quattro Cinco stake, the 15 plus year stake, it's like, why wouldn't you do that little bit amount? Like that's the beautiful thing about the system is you don't need a lot of money. If you don't have a lot of money, or maybe you haven't been in here since the beginning, you can still leverage your time and still earn all that interest for the next 15 years. Like the average staking length, I think we're like 6 years now, or a little over 6 years. Like,
yeah, I think it's closing up on 6.5 or maybe like 6.7.
So we've gone from the beginning of the life from about like 4.5, 4.7, I think, to like now we're going over 6 and working our way to 7. So we've seen the growth, and the staking average continues just to go alongside with it. And why would you not invest in yourself for the next 15 years? And if $100, $1,000 could end up being someone's retirement someday, right? Like, so
Yeah.
Bitcoin has done 6.9 or done 16, was it
6.9 million?
No, is it 69 million X or 6.9 million X?
I think it's
6.9
6.9.
Yep. 6.9 million X in the 10 plus years that it's been around. So imagine what Hex could do in 15 years if it's just a better store of value, right? You get paid trustless yield to hold it. So like in my eyes, there's no question that Hex will do a 6.9 million X. And a lot of people, especially us that have, ironically enough, us that have been the longest, I think sometimes struggle to grasp that concept that we will probably see that 6.9 million X. It's hard for us because we have so much Hex, and we're like, even people that get in today get so much Hex. It's like, yeah, this will do a 6.9 million X.
That's a great
even
point.
Then, it'll change their lives, and we can't wrap our minds around the numbers, even though something has already done it and proven it. So it's like a proven model now. It's almost impossible for our minds to be like, there's no way it could do it a couple more million X on top of what we've done already. It's like, yeah, it will. And this is why this community is going to be so much better off than even like the Bitcoin community, the Ethereum communities. All those people along the way, like they dropped off at some point, right? Whether it was a 5X, a 10X, 100X, 1000X, 10,000X, million X, 2 million X. At some point, they took profits, or maybe they exited their position fully. And now, okay, they might have had some temporary wealth or what have you. Like Hex is building that generational wealth because it keeps us from our human nature of just like, there's no way we can go beyond a 10,000X. And then because of the staking feature, we're going to realize those millions of X that still haven't come yet in the future. And so like, that's why it's so important when you say, why not go out there and throw that first Cuatro Cinco stake out there, invest in your time. Like, what do you have to lose for $100,000 that could turn into a retirement for you, or even generate generational wealth from one stake? Like, it truly is possible with that amount of potential returns still available for Hex, if not more. Like, I think it will outperform Hex or Bitcoin over the long term.
Yeah, I think especially I have people that get into this ask me like nerd questions about they're really interested in crypto as far as the code and stuff, and it's a really good selling point for Hex. Even if you don't like it, your first impression isn't for the gains or the community or whatever. If you just focus on math and code, Hex is so superior to even the Lion King Bitcoin out there. Bitcoin, Richard calls it spaghetti code, and it really is pretty trash when you really look into how susceptible it is to hacks and stuff like that. And I think he mentions it's had 2 of those so far, and then to roll back the chain. And Hex doesn't have those externalities. It really is a finished product. And I know for all the hate Hex has had, I'm sure there are people out there that try to dissect this code and to try to find some vulnerabilities in. But to be up 100% for 2 years, to have better code, that's a good feather in his cap for the people who are geeked out and really want to understand that if you want to get into this, that the gains are great, getting a stake and ladder, having a 555, getting a great community, a great founder. I feel like we really have all the great things in one crypto. And I try not to be biased when I say that because I love Hex and I like this, but if I'm just being pragmatic and logical, we really do have the best of so many things that people value in crypto.
Well, Johnny Chaos says it best, a great, awesome community member that's been here from the beginning as well. Most Hexicans are skeptics. Like, a lot of us are skeptics. We try to come in, we poke holes in this stuff. A lot of us have been here since at least last cycle. We usually have at least one cryptocurrency cycle under our belt. So we know all the pitfalls, right? Like, cryptocurrency is full of them. It's people rugging the project, anonymous founders just leaving, promises that never are fulfilled because this stuff is hard. Like, look at Richard, he's got an elite team of devs, and it still takes a lot of time and just to get it right, to make sure the code is good. Only thing besides Hex that has locked immutable code. So that means no admins, no backdoors, nothing is like Uniswap. Nothing else out there really exists that is locked like Hex. So that gives you that extra kind of layer of protection against these pitfalls that a lot of other cryptocurrencies, even Bitcoin, have faced over time with like inflation bugs. So this is another thing that just checks off all the boxes. Is just everything is covered, and it's kind of the benefit of the groundwork being laid out before us with Bitcoin and Ethereum. We get, and this is kind of like one of Richard's mantras, is just like, he doesn't want to necessarily try the new thing, right? Like, he wants stuff that's tried and tested. He wants to figure out what went wrong, what went right, and then make it better. And then that's what Hex is. It is just a better store of value that earns you trustless yield over time. He figured out what was wrong with crypto and what needed to be fixed. And one of the biggest things is just like making sure that there is no middleman in between you and your wealth. So with Hex, like we don't need a centralized exchange. We don't need to lend out our tokens to earn yield. All this stuff can be done trustlessly, which is kind of the ethos that crypto was started on, right? Like it was to get us away from government that controls our currency, that has the power to inflate. Well, for us in the US, it's not even government that has control over our currency. It's private practice. And it gets us away from that. It gives kind of the power back to the people, gives you financial sovereignty, and you have control over your money again. And we haven't seen that. I don't know if necessarily we probably haven't seen it since these governments have kind of taken over and taken power. And it's just nice. I think it's where we're transitioning. I think we're in the process of one of the largest transference of wealth in human history. And I think Hex is going to be the leading forefront on that. And the Richard Hart ecosystem that he's producing kind of goes back to the ethos that crypto was originally founded on. So I'm excited to see what we do in the future.
God, me too, man. I'll touch on that later on the podcast as far as the PulseChain ecosystem, because I think it's really valuable that people know that it's not just Hex. And we have the value of Richard Hart being the founder of this. And even if he was a founder and he created this, it was great, and he just let us have it, and he wasn't vocal and he wasn't visual and didn't have a YouTube channel. He wasn't always trying to help us. That would be great. If he was just a founder that created Hex, it was good, and he just stayed on the outside answering questions, wasn't such a public guy. But the fact that he's always here and he's always helping us, I look at crypto has always been a detriment to me in a small way, just because, like you were saying, everybody's got that price point where if you get a certain crypto, whether even the legacy stuff like Bitcoin and Ethereum, if you've got a price point where you want to exit 10% or 50% of your bag, there's always that price. But with Hex, it made me think differently about crypto. It made me realize this really is what DeFi was supposed to be, and what almost an ideal cryptocurrency, a store of value, should be. And the fact that Rich is out there fighting for us, and if it's a scam out there, if Bitcoin or somebody's got an issue outside of Hex, I feel like he's doing emergency live streams. He's doing tweets. He's always telling us about things we should avoid. It's really rare in a founder to be this involved, not only with Hex in the community, but with other cryptos, talking about what they do good, what they do bad, which you should be aware of. So it's so refreshing to have someone as a founder be so involved in the community and have a YouTube channel and Twitter. I feel like he always takes care of us. So it's so important for new people to understand that when you get into Hex and Pulse, it's getting better. Hex is on the Ethereum blockchain. It's getting ready to come over to Pulse. You'll have basically Hex on 2 chains. But when it comes to Pulse, that's going to be the real Hex on the Pulse side. And then we get to kind of encapsulate that into this small, closed ecosystem. So, man, once that starts and we can just do Pulse stuff and it's all done and the sack phases are finished, everything's done.
So many sack phases.
I think that's the ramp that's going to take off, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Richard Hart is like that, having a mentor in the space, right? And it's very much needed, because there is so many pitfalls and such a steep learning curve in crypto. And I think that's one of the largest barrier to entries you see, is because the learning curve is so hard. And most of us barely had a foot in the door with being here another cycle and trying to learn through all our mistakes and maybe some of the stuff that we got right. But like without Richard, and this is what I was saying earlier on when we started this podcast, is I'm a very different person from what I started 2+ years ago till now. And a lot of that goes to Richard Hart and the knowledge that he's bestowed upon me just via osmosis, right? Learning through him, learning through his streams. And it's funny because we get a lot of hate about it. It's just like, oh, well, you guys just repeat what Richard Hart says. It's like, yeah, but he's right. Right. And they're like, it's like, yeah, it's just like, okay, well, why would I not repeat some information that is correct? And that's the thing people get confused, is he is one of the most knowledgeable people in the space. And we've learned a lot coming along. And you also mentioned it earlier, like Hex can be as simple as you want to make it or as complex as you want to make it. Right. And in the beginning, even us OGs, when we're starting out, like it took us almost a half year to learn the inner workings of Hex, learning how dynamic the system is, learning the T-share, how important that was. Like it really took the community almost half a year to understand. It's just like, oh, I need more of these. It's not just about the token, right? Like we realize like the token's great and all, but it's what you can produce with it. And it's the T-share, and the T-share is it's like the golden key. Once you figure out what that is, you really truly understand what you hold. And once you understand what you hold, then you value it more than anything. And that's why, like you said, your mindset has kind of changed where like, oh, maybe at this price point, you would have given up 10% here. At this price point, you would have given up 10% here. And it might not seem like a lot at the time, but 10% in crypto, and then you move up another 1,000, 5,000, 10,000x, that 10% is a lot. And maybe you took a little bit, 10 more percent here, 10 more percent here. And the beauty of that staking feature and that T-shares in the system, it essentially trains you to be a better person. It trains you just like, hey, delayed gratification is the way how you get rich in this world, right? Finding a way to monetize your time, to get your money to work for you when your head hits that pillow at night. That's the end goal. And Hex is the ultimate form of that. And that's why this journey I've been on since very young in my life of trying to find this true form of passive income. That's why like I'm so excited, and why I never had like a second of doubt. Like we had all this fun in the beginning, blah, 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 blah. Like it never like slipped in my mind once that we weren't going to be the number one cryptocurrency, because I've been searching for this thing my entire life, and it just didn't exist. That's why I never found it. And then when Hex came along, I was like, oh, this is it. This is the true form of passive income. There is no overhead. There is no maintenance. There's no tenants I have to take care of. There's no, I don't have to work through a middleman at a stock exchange. Like I don't have any of this stuff. My T-shares, the money printers in this system are working for me 24/7, whether I'm asleep, whether I'm awake, whether I'm eating, whether I'm out enjoying myself. And I was just like, this is it. Like I found what I've been searching for since a young age. And now, like, why would I not want to spread this to everyone else? And like people think it's just like, oh, well, you're bringing more people in for the Ponzi, or, oh, we've heard it all 1,000 times. It's like, no, it's like I found something that I believe will truly change the world. And this is the first cryptocurrency where I believe that so adamantly that I'm willing to bring in my friends and family and tell them, like, this is the place you want to park your money. This is where you want to invest in. And I would have never done that with any other cryptocurrency. I don't give a fuck if it was Bitcoin, Ethereum, you name it. Until Hex, I was not confident enough to get my loved ones and people I care about into a cryptocurrency. But that's how strongly and passionately I believe about this product. Like it will change probably the face of the world. And people don't even realize it yet. People don't even know about it. And this, we always laugh like pre-viral. It's like, it's true though. We've done so much. We've become essentially a top 3 cryptocurrency in less than 2 years with 76,000 people. Imagine when we get our first couple 100,000, our first million, 10 million.
Yeah.
Again, you can't even begin to wrap your mind around the numbers.
It's funny, but we get that success and those kind of numbers and a market cap and everything, with everything holding us back. Every single thing, I feel like is holding us back. With people on YouTube that would introduce people that have the community that could introduce people to something really good, or people getting market cap by what is it, like all the exchanges, coin market cap, all those. I feel like Hex still, like you're saying, 2 years later, we still haven't been given the respect or the attention it deserves. And sometimes at this point, I really wonder why. At the beginning, I was wondering, I thought people may not have got their bags yet, and they were just kind of waiting to talk about it on YouTube, some of the influencers. But now I can't figure out why everybody wouldn't want someone to know about Hex. I think people that try to put holes into Hex and Richard Hart and his character, they've tried and tried and tried. And all it is success. And all it is him doing good things, not only in crypto, but outside of crypto, whether it's raising money for the Sins Foundation or helping people and trying to save us from ourselves. All these things are so important outside of crypto that I'm just shocked that he doesn't get more credit. But man, it's coming. I think this 2-year barrier and bringing in the Pulse and having this kind of go live with the Pulsechain community, I think there's only a certain amount of time that influencers and the gatekeeping that's been going on with Hex, they can only contain this for so long, because it's gonna get so big very soon that nobody can ignore it. You mentioned in crypto that you started off doing some mining rigs back in 2016. Just like a little pivot real quick. Was that profitable back then?
So it was, Ethereum started running up, so Ethereum was really profitable. And then, like I was telling you, then as I got more comfortable, I was venturing out into some pre-mines, which if you pre-mine the right coin, it can be very profitable. Some of them were duds. Electronium, like you were saying earlier, was the one that I actually hit it big with. But it was profitable. I had two 8 GPU mining rigs. I bought like at the time it was one of the top of the line cards. It was like a Vega 64, which was like a pro and a curse at the same time, because all these other cards were established, but these were like a new card, and it was a lot harder to get them to stay stable. So like there wasn't as much information out there. So like I was saying, it really forced me to go into the weeds of crypto, into these forums, and to just really have to bite down and learn how to do a lot of this stuff myself, or otherwise I had thousands of dollars of equipment just in there gathering dust. But yeah, I made some money, and then like I was actually very fortunate too, because mining also kind of gave me an indicator at the market. And I'm not a big TA guy. I usually like kind of looking at everything through a macro lens anyways. But I had this added benefit of being very attuned to what the price of mining equipment, the prices, the availability, all that stuff were at the time. And if you guys were around that, you know that the GPUs, all that stuff was like gone. You couldn't get it. If you wanted to get on the secondary market, you were paying 3, 4, 5 times the price. Like the numbers had gotten crazy. And as we progressed into like 2017, I started to see GPUs and other components come available. Then the prices started going down, 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 and then also the cryptocurrency was starting to fall off too. I was just like, oh, to me, it was just it was a red flag right away. It was just like, oh, this market is crashing. I was just like, I could see it. I was like, I could never get any of these parts available before. And so I had this like cue in that a lot of people didn't. I was just like, oh, this market's done. It's going down. So when I started to hit that like precipice of where I could see mining wasn't going to be profitable anymore, I was like, well, I can still sell all my equipment, make a nice 2x on used equipment, and just be done with it, reallocate into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and just move on to something else. So I did that. So sorry to whoever I sold my GPUs to, but
sorry about your luck.
Yeah, I sold them at the 2x after mining with them, and then put that into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I just kind of wiped my hands clean of it as the market began to tank. And then after that, I kind of just had a bad taste in my mouth. Again, I chased a lot of the pump and dumps and a lot of the hype coins and all that stuff. Yep. So I was like, okay, let me go back to what I really know, what I'm comfortable with, which was real estate at the time. And, maybe I'll come back to this. And it took someone like Richard Hart and a product like Hex to really bring me back into the space, because, I did well on mining, but I wrecked myself on a lot of other stuff. And so it took me, and this is why we go through these nasty cycles, right? Is because it essentially brings new people in, choose the space, chews them up, and then spits them out. And you were talking about, like, I don't understand why Hex is still gatekept to this day. It's like, look what the current environment of crypto is. It's nothing but middlemen, exchanges, people, lending platforms, people in between you and your crypto collecting fee. And Hex is that revolutionary product that breaks the business model of this entire space right now. So this is why all the large players, all these centralized exchanges, lending platforms, this is why we're gatekept so hard. It's like they have all the money for advertisement. They control the narrative in the space, and they're not stupid. They understand that Hex eats their lunch, that Hex essentially destroys what their business model is. And so we're gonna have to push through that. And I mean, we've been pushing and fighting it for 2+ years. But they're not going to give up easily, right? Like this is where we're going though. You can see it, like the writing's on the wall. These decentralized exchanges, we came up with Uniswap, this truly decentralized product, which is Hex. A lot of people think there's a bunch of DeFi out there. It's not. People have to give up their keys, their crypto to earn yield, and then it gets rugged, or there's an admin key and someone goes in the back door. Like these are the reasons that we're gatekept today. And then you have people that maybe they had bags of Hex and then they sold out early on and now they're bitter, right? Like I saw today on Twitter, a guy that had like 5 million Hex sold it for like 40 grand on a double back in the day. And it's just like, yeah, it's all going down. It's going to zero, blah, blah, blah. And now he's talking shit about Hex again today after 2+ years of uptime with no issues whatsoever of creating millionaires and millionaires after millionaires. Like you said, you can't find one person that says they were scammed or anything. And he still continues to talk poorly on it just because he feels resentment or loss of missing out. And this is what's the beautiful thing about Hex, is using that staking feature saves you from yourself. If you use it, if you don't understand what you hold, you don't value it, you don't know how to use it properly, and you lose it, just like with anything.
I remember when I first learned about the staking ladder. It was just like an epiphany. I love that idea. I knew about Hex from day one, got into it, FOMO'd hard, and then creating that staking ladder, it really gives you a peace. You don't have this urgency all the time of trying to chase something and trying to always be aware of 50 or 60 different projects, and people always DMing you and reaching out on Telegram saying,
the next
"Hey, Matty, check this one out." Dude, it was so exhausting. But to have Hex, I remember even early 2020, just launched a month or so earlier in late 19. But after a couple of months, I'm like, oh man, this is going to work. The founder is great. The code is great. Everything sounded so well done. Like he really put in the time to this. It was even delayed, I think 6-8 months. So I just felt, really. I felt like a sense of just relief knowing that we really had something awesome. It's nice to know more about your background. You mentioned passive income and stuff. That's something that you and I share. I feel like I've been involved with trying to find something since I was in my teens, looking for passive income, because I never wanted to work 30 years for someone else and just hopefully best case scenario, retire after 30 years at 65 at the earliest or 70, just to live off of some basic government assistance or Social Security, which probably won't be around when we're done. But Hex is such a lifeline, and it's so refreshing. And I want people to know about this and to really take the time to invest in this on your own. Look into Hex. Don't take our word for it. It really is something amazing. And Motley mentioned about the T-share. This thing is almost getting out of reach to get a quote unquote T-share. It'll be B shares and M shares soon. And I was talking to a previous podcast. I think my very first podcast of the Pulsechain Podcast, it was the entire episode was focused. The title was about T-shares, and I had K4K Crypto and the Crypto Heartbeat, and we just emphasized just T-shares because it's such an important aspect of Hex. And I think people in Hex understand T-shares. We kind of been fine-tuned to appreciate the brilliance of it. But even now, I feel myself that I don't necessarily go out of my way to really hone in and tell people how important T-shares are. But I wanted to segment over.
It's like the most complicated subject of Hex, right? Like it took us the longest to figure it out, and it's not easy. So you're always torn when you're onboarding someone, trying to figure out a way how to express to them how valuable Hex is, and to do that, you have to give them as much understanding of the product as possible. And so, like I've always found with my onboarding process, you kind of have to go at the speed of your onboardee and see how quickly they're absorbing everything. But the sooner you can get them to the point of understanding T-shares, understanding when you stake that Hex for whatever time period you're allocated a certain amount of T-shares, and those are your money printers, right? That's what earns you your passive income. And the sooner you realize, like, hey, you can buy it cheaper today than you can buy it tomorrow, and that's always going to be going up, at least in the terms of Hex, over the years. And you want that money printer in the system as long as possible, right? Like the Federal Reserve continues to print money, but that money doesn't go in your pocket. In Hex, you cut out all the middlemen. You are the common link between you and the money printer. So all that inflation, people's like, oh, inflation's bad, but it's bad because the inflation in our system that we're currently in with the fiat dollar, that inflation doesn't go in our pocket. It just devalues the dollars we have, and we have less spending power, and we're working more hours than ever and getting less for it. Whereas Hex, it cuts all that out. The Federal Reserve of Hex essentially gives you the money printer, which is a T-share, gives it to you. It's just like, how long do you want this in the system? It's like, well, I'd like it as long as possible, please. And it's like, okay, you can stake that out for 5,555 days, and you'll get that today, a cheaper T-share than what it'll be tomorrow, all the way out 15 plus years. And it just continues to print you money. And that's what you were saying. It's just like now 2+ years in, what you could buy for 60 cents is now thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's just going to continue on. And then we're going to see that with new generations coming in. They're going to see some of these stakes and you're like, oh my God, that guy had 2 T-shares. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we'll be in B shares, M shares. Like, how's that possible? It's like, oh, they must have been here from the start, or they must have been here for 2 years ago. And it's that system continues to just progress over time, where even us who have been here since the beginning, we can only acquire so many more T-shares, and eventually we won't be able to afford T-shares. It'll be B shares and then M shares, because over time it just requires more and more Hex to buy a T-share.
Yeah, I look at ending stakes. I love going back and looking at like the staking ladder I've got, and certain ones that I've had for a long, long time. I mean, they'll say like day 3 or day 20 or something.
I love
I'll
those.
see the amount of T-shares it is. Yeah. And one of the biggest regrets, I'm looking at like, oh, I love making these Hex every single day. I'm getting paid in Hex. You get that daily yield. It feels great. But I know on this specific date, those T-shares, whoop, they're gone. I'll never get those back. And it really is impressive. I think, even 5 or 10 years from now, people are going to look and going to see the value of that one T-share. They were talking to people in circles and stuff saying, man, you got a T-share? And like you said, 60-cent T-share sounds, how stupid does that sound, a 60-cent T-share? But they are valuable. And I wanted to make that an important feature of this podcast to let people know how valuable it is and how exciting. But speaking of exciting, man, I want to dive into this this Hex car that's going to be in the Daytona 500. For those that don't know, the Hex community got together and sponsored a NASCAR, totally self-funded. So big props to you and Agape for making all this happen. I don't know the exact details of this. How did this idea get started? Who was involved? And I'd love for you to tell people, what happened? How did this happen, dude?
Okay. Yeah. So like Matty said, we're sponsoring a car in NASCAR and Daytona 500, biggest race for NASCAR coming up here this week. Actually, I'll be flying out Tuesday. I'll be down there till Sunday. We'll get in the details here shortly, but the way it started for me at least was the opportunity actually went to Agape Hex, otherwise known as Ricky. If you guys don't know him, he is actually the videographer for Crypto Sparbuck, which is a couple German guys in our community that are actually doing a really cool thing right now. They're doing a U.S. road trip. So they're literally coming from their homeland, Germany and Austria. Patrick's from Austria. He never lets me forget. But they're actually doing a really cool thing. They're doing a grassroots drive around the U.S. They have an Audi R8 that's wrapped in Hex car, Pulsechain car, staker car. They go around and they hold these free workshops, just grassroots, like, hey, come here, learn about this cryptocurrency that could change your life, this new financial product. And then, Hexicans come out, they bring their friends and family. Like, I think they had one of their largest ones recently in Austin that had like over 150 people. Like, it's massive. And I helped them out in Florida, and I've seen it grow. And like, I think it's one of the best things that's being done right now. But Ricky is the guy that helps produce all their content. So he's got a lot of connections back in LA and California. And he had a friend of his reach out, and she was like, hey, Ricky, we're looking for a sponsorship for one of the cars in NASCAR. And she's like, do you know a company that might be interested in sponsoring them? And he's like, I don't really know a company, but I know a community, right? And that tweet, I love that tweet because he posted this tweet out afterwards. And it's kind of like that tweet that'll live in infamy. It's like, I don't know a company, but I know a community, because we are truly decentralized, right? If you want something done, like Richard Hart tells us all the time, like, you go do it. I'm busy. No expectations of others, right?
Yep.
And so Ricky was given this opportunity, and I think he was talking to Nardo, another awesome community member, and it's just like, hey, do you think we can get this done? Do you think we can make this happen? And Nardo told him to reach out to me. It's like, hey, Motley's really big at like firing up the community. Like, go to him and see if you guys can maybe tag team this thing together and knock it out. So Ricky came to me with this idea, and I can't remember where I was at the time, but he told me, and man, I got so fired up. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. I was like, I'll donate $50,000. Let's go. I was like, and then afterwards I was like, that's crazy. Why did I say that? I was like, well, I'm committed now. So I was like, and I threw my hat in the ring. I was like, all right, cool. So I committed. He committed like $40,000. Like, well, shit, we're already like, we're like 1/6 of the way there. We needed to raise $600,000. And so then we just started a campaign, right? Like, reached out to the community, like, hey, we have this opportunity. How cool it'd be to see Hex.com all over a car, sponsored a car in Daytona 500. And, this is kind of the stuff that starts gaining us eyeballs, virality. I love another thing that Ricky and I both love was, I think the NASCAR community is a good fit for the product we have, because it's a lot of blue collar, white collar, hardworking individuals that broken their backs, blood, sweat, and tears for years at maybe manual labor jobs or jobs that aren't these high paying jobs. And they've suffered the most with inflation and the devaluing of their dollar. And they need something to get ahead, right? Like, you need that extra push to get you above, like, to kind of beat back inflation. And so the community made sense. The advertisement made sense. it's just badass seeing your crypto going around at 200 plus miles an hour, just the petrol, the car sounds, everything, like everything makes sense, right? And this is another thing people don't understand is they like the tangible, right? Like how cool is it finally seeing, yeah, there you go, seeing the car, like car itself is beautiful. So we had 5 days to raise $600,000. At first, I didn't think we were going to get there. I was pumped, but I was like, I don't know. It's a lot of money, and people have to give selflessly, right? No expectations, nothing in return. They have to trust someone. Like I was entrusted with community funds, so I'm trusted with over $500,000. So they have to trust me to actually do what I'm going to say that I'm going to do instead of just like walking off with 600 grand. And so there's a lot of pieces that had to fit. And then next thing I know, like I just had people reach out like, hey, I'd like to give 10,000. I'd like to give 60,000. Hey, I'm new to Hex, but I want to be a part of this. I can only give $200. And if anyone knows the gas fees in the current situation with Ethereum right now, to give $200, you have to give, you got to give $50 just for gas fees. So it's,
yep.
And this is the thing that really touched me. And then this is what really just drove me to make sure this thing was successful. Yes, I love the big donations from some of the OGs that have large bags and are able to afford to give 10, 20, 30, upwards of $60,000. But it was those little guys that just wanted to contribute, that wanted to be a part. And for them, they're still in that accumulation phase, right? Like they're still trying to build up their bags. So they're giving up a huge opportunity cost for even giving up a little bit, but it meant so much to them that they were willing to contribute. And so that really kind of tugged on my heartstrings. So it's like, shoot, we have to make this happen. So, yeah, we had 5 days to raise $600,000. We were coming down to the wire, but it looked like we were going to meet our goal. I think it was the last day we're collecting. We were like 585,000 collecting the last little bit. And then I was telling you off air before we started this, out of nowhere, we had one of our largest donations of like 320,000 Hex, which was 60 grand. And then we instantly just crushed our goal, right? So we had like 40,000 surplus. And we were talking about like I had to send out a tweet. It's like, stop sending me money, guys. Like you won't see that anywhere else.
We got
crypto,
it,
right? Yeah, it's like we hit the goal. Please stop sending money. We're good. And so we crushed it. So we got our goal. Had to tell people to stop sending money because this community is so damn generous. And then we started to focus on the other legs of this project. So like what you have on your screen right now is the actual car. So that was the next step. Like what is the design? And again, the community, there's so many community members. We're so diverse, so many different skills. We had amazing community members like, hey, we're working on the design. Go ahead and start throwing out ideas, guys. So we had numerous people come up with different car designs, different URL placement, color schemes, you name it. And so like we integrated a lot of that into the car that you see now. And this is also in large part with the graphic designer that Nascar had. We just gave them the rough idea of we wanted hex.com obviously all over the place. If you don't have that landing page for them to go to, what's the point of the advertisement? We love the logos. We love the colors. I know for me, I'm not an artistic eye by any stretch of imagination. So in my mind, first of all, I was like, well, I want the gradient on the entire car. I think that would look amazing.
That was my thought too.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect, right? I was like, it'll stand out, it'll look great. But the problem is the logo fades in, the messaging doesn't work quite right. And so it was funny when we got the first concept back from Nascar, and like he pretty much had this idea down pat with the black, and then you had the transitioning of the colors. I was just like, oh, nailed it. Yep. What was I thinking? Yep. And there was another community member. I'm still gonna not get his Twitter handle correct, but I believe it's Greg's. I think he had one of the best designs. It was close to this. Yeah, it was very close to this. It was purple. I think he said he would have done purple and black, but kind of the same format as this. And he would have done the gradient, but I think his software didn't let him. But very close to this. And yeah, this is what came up. I talked to Richard about it. I was just like, hey, if you had the option to put whatever you want on the car, what do you want on there? And I kind of knew what he was going to say anyways. But hex.com is obviously paramount. And then after that, what he always talks about, 38% APY, right? Like you need that action statement, something to drive people there. So put 38% APY. And then I think even on the HUD, we got a statement on there, earn passive income. And we had a lot of debate and discussion and stuff on the community, like what's the best, right? And what's like the best slogan to put on the car? We lose this concept in our mindset. It's just like we're trying to reach out to what we call no corners, people that aren't in crypto. So people are like, be your own bank, I can't even think of all the stuff we had, but a lot of stuff that just didn't necessarily click with like a no coiners like thought process. You have to break it down and reach as large of an audience as possible. Even saying something is like saying on this car that Hex.com is crypto could alienate a lot of your audience. So you have to find something. And it kind of went back to where I started my journey with. Maybe I was a little biased, but I was just like, earn passive income. Like, it speaks to everyone, right? We're all seeking it. We're all trying to find ways to get ahead, like you said. So we don't have to work 30, 40, 50 years, break our back, hopefully retire when we're 60, 70. But nowadays you're working 80, 90 years. You see poor elderly people working at Walmart greeting you because they can't afford to stop working, right? This shows you how far the dollar has been devalued. And so this is why it's so important, like a message like Hex.com, earn passive income, 38% APY, something that can defeat inflation. And it's funny, in our minds, 38% APY seems crazy. If we told them what the actual number was with the price appreciation of Hex, it's thousands of percent. They think 38%.
Staking too.
Yeah. And then you have staking on top of it. So people think 38% APY is crazy. But again, it's all about knowledge and education. And as they come in and they learn more about Hex, they truly realize how valuable and what they hold and how important it is, because it's not just 38% APY, it's thousands and thousands of percent APY. But, for marketing purposes, we put on there. And then I spitballed with Richard a little bit more, and we were talking about like the 10,000X. And he's like, if I would leave one off, he's like, I'd leave that off just because, again, it's just kind of like the common man thinks like 10,000X, like, oh, I must have missed it, right? And even some of us here, like, oh, 10,000X, like, Hex isn't going to run as hard as maybe like some of these other products in the future, but they just don't. We just have these memories that it's hard for us to wrap our mind around these unfathomable numbers, even though something like Bitcoin has already done it. It's like, nope, we're going to do millions and millions of X. So this is the car.
I remember when
with.
I was just going to, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no,
I remember when Hex was a fraction of a penny, and I remember vividly thinking, when this gets to a penny, that's going to be so incredible.
Huge
and
milestone.
Now here we are, we've hit 30, 40, 50 cents. So we all know that eventually it's going to get to these numbers that we want. But sometimes, like you're talking about, 10,000X or 1,000,000%, it does kind of seem like pie in the sky, or that we're trying to pump some kind of imaginary bag. But it's not that way. I mean, this is a superior product that hasn't even reached the masses yet. So it's still so early. So people think it's gone up 10,000X, which it has. And we got, Hex cars going to be a Nascar. They think this is kind of the pinnacle, the top of the mountain. It really is
just
not. It really is just a start.
Yeah.
It's funny about the design of that. I was watching your video on the Hex car reveal, and it was amazing, dude. My two favorite colors are black and yellow. So on a personal level, I love this right away. But the simplicity of the design, like the color combination, how it's not busy, was impressive to me. And no matter what camera angle that you look at on a TV angle on the actual race, they're going to see Hex.com, and that's huge.
Yep, and that was the thing too, right? Is like, I don't have an artistic eye, but I have the rough idea and fundamentals of what need to be there, and that was a big thing for me too. It was like, people are throwing out, there were good ideas, but it becomes too cluttered, right? Like, you have to really hone down on what's important, and nothing matters if they don't get to Hex.com. So like you just said perfectly. And then this is also something I talked to the representative that is working with Ricky and I throughout this whole process. Because even we at first were thinking like, oh, well, maybe we take a Hex.com off here and put this. And he's like, listen, that has to be shown from every camera angle. He's like, imagine if like you're neck and neck for the lead, or there's an accident, or someone spins you guys out, and let's say the Hex.com car is getting full coverage and just replay after replay, and you don't have Hex.com on there. He's like, what was the point? He's like, you just threw all that money, all that sponsorship out. That should be your primary focus. Everything else is secondary. And so then it's just finding those last couple core messages that you can put on the car without making it too busy. Everything has to be aesthetically pleasing. You have to punch hard enough to get your message across. There's just a very fine balance with the design of this car. And ultimately, it all came together with amazing help from the community, from the professionals at NASCAR, and I think it looks incredible. I think we have the best looking car in Daytona 500. I'm in love, and I am a guy that, since this has become my life and what I love doing, like, I'm obsessed with everything Hex. So like, I love Hex art. I love all the cool stuff people have built in the community, and I'm a collector. Like, I collect everything. I've had paintings done by Todd LaRousse, Hex Martin, Shield, Hex Shield, Pulse Shield from shieldmasters.com. like you name it. I'm like collecting hex art like crazy, and I can't wait. We're gonna do die cast.
Die cast.
Yes. So we'll have the elite version. It'll be I think it's called Lionel Racing is the one that does it for NASCAR. We'll have the 1/24th scale, the best one they have, all the details. We'll do a limited run of those, and then we'll have Matchbox cards coming out like crazy. But grab them fast, because like I have Hexicans like hitting me up like, can I go ahead and pre-order like 20 with you, and then like 3 of these?
They're gonna go, man.
Like, I was like, I can't. I was like, there's no way I can manage all you guys individually. I was like, I will release it. I'll let you know, and it's just gonna go. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's only so much we can order, and you're just gonna have to be quick on the trigger, because they're gonna go like that.
And we got a really good driver too. You know, it's really important and often overlooked. The Hex car is great, but if you don't have a good driver that's going to stay out there for an extended period of time, you get people who are, they wreck early on, and then you miss hours of coverage for this. So hopefully, JJ Yelly, is that how you pronounce his last name? Is it Yelly?
I don't want to. I need to ask Cabana this, because I was saying it Yeely, but it might be Yaley. I'm just going to go with JJ.
JJ, so that's much better. Because the guy, he's really talented, man. He's got a great track record, and not just in NASCAR, but other things. So I'm so excited. I used to watch Dale Earnhardt, and I love the black number 3. So this hit home with me. Even if I didn't know about Hex, if I saw this car out there, I would love the design of this car. So
it's crazy.
For people that may not know where to catch this, I know Scuba Froggy found an app where everybody could watch the races. Is that right?
Yeah. Do you have it? I think it was like Fubu. I
think it's fubu.com. I'll have that in the link of this podcast. So if you guys want to do that, you can do a 7-day trial for free. But the Hex community, I think, is also going to be sponsoring Top Cat Racing at the Lamborghini Evo in 2022 in the UK, right?
Yep. And so like it's just and this is what's so important about this event. And like, it's funny, I've seen some stuff going back and forth like, oh, like NASCAR is going to be great, but we could do other stuff better. But this is the cool thing, right? Like, this was just a proof of concept. This was showing like, hey, this is what the community can really do. Like, Hexicans coming together, selflessly giving to just put eyeballs on Hex and just show people what a beautiful financial product that's been created, that exists, that gives you that leg up in this world that's so much needed and people just don't know about. And to me, that like, as fun and cool as the race is going to be, all the merch, all the fun we're going to have, like, the thing that really hits home is like, it's just a proof of concept. Like, this shows you what we can do now. Like, this is just community driven, fueled, funded. Everything came from the community. And so this is just the start, right? Like, I had I don't even know if I should throw this out there yet, but I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. Anyways, DJ Lethal hit me up. He's works with Limp Bizkit and all them. He was just like, yo, can we he's got a buddy in racing. He's like, can we sponsor him like for the full year? So like, all these opportunities come up, whether it be racing, other sponsorships. This is just the start. And like, once the community sees like what comes with it and like what we've done, like, it just, again, like you said, this is the snowball. This is just this. We're just at the starting line. Like, we haven't even taken off yet.
Man, imagine having a full-time. I got my shirt here. I'll be sporting this.
Hey, you got it all right? Nice.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Great. So imagine having a Hex.com shirt. What's that?
Community design. Community member hit me up. He's like, yo, I want to make a design real quick. So he did that, and I thought it was really cool. Just retro style, like NASCAR vibes. I was like, hell yeah.
That's awesome. And I was thinking, after a couple of days of looking at that car, I'm like, imagine a full-time Hex car in NASCAR, and then imagine a full-time PulseChain. God, having 2 or 3 cars,
top 3, but all 3 of those cars just going around, like, that'd be incredible.
The ultimate flex, man. It would be hilarious. And all of us are watching every single race. If that happened, it would just be
be a NASCAR fan all of a sudden.
It would be right down. Every event would be in person. People would be like, well, "Who is these Hex guys?" It's crazy,
crazy. Because, and this is another thing. It's just like the whole event now is just going to be a promotional thing, right? Like, yes, we'll get in front of millions of eyeballs, but you got to think, just in the stands and the crowd alone, there's more people there than active stakers. You have the potential to reach out to more people than we have active stakers in the ecosystem now. Like, that doesn't show you that we're still pre-vial and still.
That's early. A great point.
I don't know what will. And imagine, so we're going to have 100, 200, maybe 200 plus Hexicans that are flying in, that are driving in. They're going to be at this event. I'm going to load them up with some of that surplus money, we bought a lot of merch. So I'm going to load them up with merch. And like one thing Hexicans do well is they promote. And like it's gonna be amazing. Like I was telling you earlier, like I got air cannons. We're gonna be out there tailgating, having a good time, and just like I love that we always get like called the cult, but yeah, just to be out there spreading the good word.
Yeah, you got to do it, man. And it's funny, people. Yeah. I hear that all the time with people who aren't close friends to me, and I tell them about this because it sucks because I feel like I have an obligation. I'm like, I don't want you guys to work because I used to work in the medical field a long time, and these people work really, really hard, and they're moving people, and they're hurting themselves, and it's just you can see the strain. They're always living for Friday. Give me the weekend. That's all they want. And I feel it feels odd telling them, man, I got this thing that I know. And I feel like you can almost guarantee it, but I don't want to say that, man. But it's so cool to actually have that relief of knowing we're in something that's really special. Cryptocurrency is the highest appreciated asset of all time, and Hex is the greatest crypto of all time. And it's only just begun. So eyeballs like the Nascar community, just that live event, these people may not know anything about Hex. So you get that massive virality with the live people watching that Hex car go around and wonder what it is. And you can check Hex because a lot of people are going to be going hex.com and they'll check it right on their phone right at the event. And then millions of eyeballs, probably 5 to 7 million people are going to be seeing this event, the Daytona 500. So it's huge. All these things are kind of coming together. Another one is this Hex event coming up in Las Vegas. This is a massive Hex event, a Hex conference coming up in early March. Did you go to the first one, Motley?
Yeah, did you? I don't remember if you went to the first one or
No,
not.
I didn't. I couldn't make it. I had some work stuff that I just could not get out of, and I was jonesing, man. I saw you guys on it, and I was just, man, I wish I could be there. Because if you're not a part of something and you're already involved with it, you know some of the people that are in it, all you want to do is, I see what you guys were doing, and the fun you were having, and the events and the things you were doing. It was killing me not to be there, but I'm going to be at this one.
Good.
But for those of you that don't know, it's coming up in early March. So 6, 7, 8, 9. But are you going to be at the one coming out this year too?
Yeah, so I'll be there. And this is, like you said, the first one was amazing, right? And this is another thing that Hexicans do. It's like this community is so strong. And then like this is a lot of what I do now. And it's kind of my niche in the community. Like I'm not the smartest, not the most technical, not the most crypto savvy, but I'm very passionate. I love networking. I love building relationships. And just building that trust, those relationships early on is just very important to me. And so like all these events that take place, like I try to be as many as possible. And being at that first Vegas trip was one of the first. I mean, we had a couple of events before that, but it was the first eye opener of like what was possible and what was coming, right? And while we were out there enjoying time with each other and just having an amazing time, I was just soaking up, and I realized like how special it was because like even with this second time out in Vegas, like it's not going to be the same as the first. Like, and I was telling everyone that was there that I was meeting, I was like, enjoy this time, like cherish it because this doesn't get to happen next year. Next year, it's going to be 1,000+ people. Like we had like 250, 300 people. It's like, enjoy the close intimacy, the relationships, the network and everything you build here, because next time there'll be 1,000+, 2,000 people. And then year 3, it'll be 10,000, 100,000 people. It's just like, you only get so many of these chances and opportunities to really build these relationships and networking early on, because eventually the space just grows too big. When you have something that's truly revolutionary and it's going to change the world like this, there's going to be millions of people in here. So like if you can attend these events and if you can build those relationships with community members that are in now, like you're going to know these people for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And this is why that passion just exudes from us, because like these are our second family members now. We see them in our chats, we see them on Twitter, we see them on Instagram, we see them on YouTube. Like if you ever go to a Hex stream, you'll see everyone talking to each other because we all know each other. We might have not met in person, we might not know each other's face, but it's like I know that handle, I know that avatar, and
I do it all the time.
And we're in there and we're talking to each other, and we're just and you'll see the Hex community, like Richard will be streaming, and we're all just having conversations. And I can only imagine what it's like it's kind of lost, I mean, nowadays because it's such a norm. But like new members coming in, it must be crazy to just see a chat of just everyone just they're all interacting, having their own separate conversations, having a good time. And it's like where we all go to hang out, and just like it's the new kind of it's our metaverse, right? Like the Hex community has its own metaverse that we've kind of created. And this group of people has just become a second family to me. It's really that close.
It's great, man. It like I was saying earlier, this is going to create an ecosystem like PulseChain is going to. And I think it's shaping up to be one closed system of perfection. You're going to have Hex, Pulse, PulseX, a reward token, yield farming, hopefully a fiat on-ramp. I mean,
vertically integrated.
2 years in, Richard Hart is quite literally making the great crypto, like taking over crypto. So first of all, I wanted to kind of let people know about the brilliance of Hex. You know, people that first get involved in this, you're obviously going to hear about Hex and Richard Hart and what a great coin this is. You get 2 copies of that on PulseChain, and Pulse being that native token on the soon to be, I think it's going to be the best blockchain in all of crypto, PulseChain. That alone to me is big, but the PulseX with the premium exchange, you know, PulseX is going to be a crypto exchange on PulseChain. I'm not even sure that's going to have any competition, but maybe even more exciting than all of that to me is the idea of having PulseX tokens that you can possibly stake and receive an incentive token. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I've heard about it.
So for me, that a light went on in my head. I'm like, wait a second, we're going to be able to stake the PulseX tokens and possibly receive an incentive token. You being around this for so long, I know that it had to like be a big explosion for you just to know that incentive token.
Yep. This, and you talked about having K for K on earlier on your podcast, and K for K, I told him on Cabana's show like last week that he's like my spirit animal when it comes to PulseX, because like I've been preaching it from the top of the rooftops forever now about like PulseX is going to crush. And that was before we just got word that now we might have this incentive token that you can actually get with single side staking with PulseX. But even before that, PulseX is just like, to me, was a broken God tier token, because like you said, it's going to be the token to the premier decentralized exchange. All the other exchanges Richard has already talked about is going to be harvested with the AMM bot. It's going to be where everything moves through in and out, right? All trades going through PulseX. So any volume, any trade going on, it's all going to take place through PulseX. PulseChain is going to be, it's a layer 1. It's going to have higher throughput. It's going to have faster transactions. It's going to be cheaper. It hits all the bullet points, which is great. But then it has that last little bit of thing. Again, kind of the Richard Hart kind of stamp on it, where you do something a little bit different, tweak it, improve on it. And you have this full blockchain of all this stuff that's built, this ecosystem that exists. He's going to copy the whole thing over, the entire system state. He's bringing it over. So if you have Aave, if you have Chainlink, if you have all these coins, he's going to bring them over, and it's free for you. If you have them on Ethereum, you'll have them on PulseChain. So it's essentially going to become that copying of the system state is going to become the world's largest airdrop that we've ever seen. So everyone's going to have their coins on another chain for free. Vis-a-vis, you're going to create the largest liquidity farming that's ever existed. If you guys don't know, liquidity farming on a decentralized exchange is where you have to provide half of one pair and half of the other, whatever coins you want to put in there to get liquidity fees and sometimes incentive token. And to do that, usually you'd have to split whatever you have in half. But with this, you have all your tokens on Ethereum. You'll be able to bridge them over, and then you'll have all your tokens that you're given for free on PulseChain. So essentially, you're getting 50% of the liquidity side for free. So come over, you bridge, you provide liquidity. It gives these PRC20 values. A lot of people are like, well, where's the value? But if they don't come over, blah, 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 blah. People are always searching for that yield. They're always searching for that passive income. And at the end of the day, 95% of this cryptocurrency doesn't do jack shit. It's literally send and receive function. So if you give someone essentially their bags for free and say, hey, you can come over here, earn yield just by literally taking the bag you got for free, your existing bag, pairing them, getting liquidity fees, incentive token, it's going to be huge. World's largest airdrop, crazy largest liquidity farming that's ever existed. And in the middle of that, PulseX to me is the heart. PulseX is the heart of PulseChain, because everything, all the blood, everything goes through it. All the transactions go through it. And PulseX is deflationary. So once all the coins are minted, that's all that will ever exist. Richard Hart mentioned no expectations, but buy and burn address, that's going to take, I think it comes out to about 21% of the fees. and it's going to take that to buy the token back. So a buyback program, and then those are going to be burned forever. So it's going to be constant buy pressure on the market and then burning a deflationary token. So that's absolutely amazing. So PulseX to me already was, I thought, a god level token. And then Richard came out with, oh yeah, by the way, oh, and before that, it's also going to be controlling the DAO. So if you have a large position in that, you have more weight in your vote of like, so then you get to determine who gets the most rewards, like what pools and the liquidity farming get the most rewards. So that was huge right there. So that's an awesome incentive as well. And then finally, Richard gives it another pump a minute. It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, maybe I do single staking and you can earn the incentive token that way as well. It's just like, okay, PulseX is god tier.
Yeah.
Like,
oh God, I wanted more.
I was like, PulseX is going to crush it. I was just like, and like, I was saying that PulseX is going to run harder than anything. That's kind of my prediction. It's going to run harder than anything else that first year after mainnet launches. And that was before the single-sided staking with the incentive token came out. So like, yep, it's guaranteed now. Like, I don't want to guarantee it, but if I had to put money on it, I would say PulseX absolutely dominates. And yeah, I'm very happy that I went heavy in it because like it made sense back then. And then Richard continues to reward me with more pump middle. So I'm like, all right, let's go.
It's good. You mentioned that because this is so good in many ways. PulseX, like you mentioned, is deflationary, which is massive on its face. But that buy and burn feature is going to diminish the supply, is super bullish. But also, PulseChain becomes more and more, as it becomes more and more successful, the PulseX buy and burn feature, that only intensifies after that. So that's going to be crazy. You look at it now, the supply, it's already out there. And then as it becomes bigger, and I think PulseChain is going to take off like a rocket. There's so much momentum just pushing behind this that people are ready for this thing to launch. We have been stranded, held hostage by the Ethereum gas fees. It's nuts. I think I've got like 5 stakes that have ended that are just sitting there bleeding. I can't afford to even end my stakes. So this is going to be so great to have this go live with all these bullish features all in one place. And I think people are going to see how attractive that is. And Richard always adds value. I feel like something new is coming out every week, every month or so. We have something else to look forward to. You mentioned the NASCAR stuff and now this. And I heard more good news that Richard Hart and Peter Schiff are going to do a live debate, I think February 23rd. Is that right?
23rd. Yep, correct.
Okay, so that's going to be huge. I mean, Peter's a huge
gold
guy, and Richard just shreds gold all the time. I look at that, I'm like, does Peter understand? Like, Richard has already covered this and verifiably shown us how gold is trash compared to Hex. So I'm just curious what his angle is going to be. Do you know, like, what stance is he going to take?
Yeah, see, this is the problem with Peter Schiff, and I think the guy's intelligent. But this is the problem with Peter Schiff, and then a lot of like almost like influencers I find in the crypto space and outside, is people tend to, they take on the same, and I'm sure like Hexicans are guilty to it to some degree, but it's hard not to be when you have the superior product, right? And like you were saying, like what's Peter Schiff's angle going to be? Because Richard has the leg up in the debate automatically just by default because he has the superior product. Like there is no question in my mind that it's the superior product, and he can back it up with factual data of just like gold has done a 2x in 40 years. If you held it for 10 years, you're down. Like it's not, there's no if or ands or buts when it comes to what the superior product is. You can't, it takes massive, even to move your finances. Like gold is heavy. Like, and this is the thing, like I love I think a lot of gold bugs, silver bugs, I think they share a common ethos with crypto. I think we invest in this stuff to get away from the fiat dollar, to get away from our dollar being printed into oblivion. So like we share a lot of commonalities. Crypto just gives you the next evolution of where we're going with our finance and the transference of wealth. It's just like you have complete financial sovereignty over it. You have the ability to pick up and relocate, and you can bring your entire wealth with you without having to pack an armored truck and carry all your gold bullion and silver dollars everywhere with you. And it's just it's the superior asset. So Peter Schiff is at a disadvantage, but the problem with some of these guys is they pigeonhole themselves into Peter Schiff essentially made a business, a brand around himself and a supporter of gold. And I think he knows that, and he'll argue it. He'll debate it. He has his talking points just like Richard does. But I think deep down he knows, like, I mean, the guy has Bitcoin, he has other stuff. Like, he's not stupid. He understands that there is better stuff out there. Now he's going to go out there and try to defend it because that's the persona he's created for himself. This is what gets him attention. And this is in this new digital era that we live in. If you're not making enough noise, if you're not punching hard enough, if you don't have something that gets you out in front of eyeballs, your message doesn't get across. So I think he's kind of pigeonholed himself into this guy that supports gold no matter what. Gold, superior, hard money, best asset out there. And he's going to defend that. And I think deep down he knows that it's not. And this is actually where I kind of lose a little respect for these kind of people because they're not willing to change their worldview. And that was one thing I learned from Richard. It's like the world changes, like you have to adjust. Like if you do not adjust, you get left behind. And the stuff that disgusts me with Peter is it's going to be at the detriment of his audience, right? The people that passionately follow him, because he is going to hedge his bets behind the scenes and he's not going to be public about it because he's created this persona, this business that thrives around him being a gold bug. But it's not going to be the detriment of him because he's in the background hedging his bets, buying Bitcoin, buying Ethereum, doing other plays. And it's going to be audience, people that trust him, that listen to what he has to say, that gets wrecked. So this is why this interview is so important, because it's not going to be Richard's audience that really cues in or learns anything new. We know the gold side, we get all that. It's going to be all these gold and silver bugs that passionately follow Peter Schiff. They're hopefully going to start seeing the light, like, hey, there's another perspective over here. Maybe it's time to start adjusting our worldview. And I can't tell you how many gold and silver bugs we have in this community. Funding Jim, who's a well-respected, super smart investor in this space, in this community. And he had he said it openly, had like $200,000 worth of silver at one point and was hawking that thing out of his minivan once he figured out that Hex is the bee's knees. He's just like, all right, get rid of this. And like, I still give him crap for it today. I was like, you're lucky that you're still with us today, going around with thousands and thousands of dollars of silver in the back of your car, just trying to shuck it in. Again, it just shows you the inefficiency of even trying to liquidate this stuff. It's not easy, not as easy as something like crypto. And I think those commonalities, I think it's a great audience for us to reach out, is those gold and silver bugs. I think Richard's going to do it amazing. I think Peter Schiff knows the deal. I think he knows he's going to lose inside, but again, he's pigeonholed himself, his business model, everything into being the gold guy. So he's going to play up the gold guy. Hopefully we can save his audience.
That's a good point. That's my point too. My big takeaway of this whole interview, I hope he has an open mind, and I hope he comes in with a positive attitude, because Richard mirrors the feedback that you give him. If you give an interview
Hostility.
or a live stream or something, if Peter comes in open-minded, positive, happy, fun, and he really wants to learn, if he gets Hex,
that'll be good back and forth.
Man, I would love to hear that debate back and forth, and I would like him to walk away from that debate when it's over saying, damn, this Hex thing is really attractive. Let me take a look at this, because I want him to introduce these legacy people who may have a ton of gold and have big 401ks. I want them to see Hex and at least look at it. And that was the big part of this, the Pulsechain podcast. I wanted people to know about all things Pulsechain and Richard Hart products. And something else I mentioned on the very first podcast, I wanted to introduce health and fitness and nutrition. I know that's really big in your life. So I would love to have you come back one day with maybe a couple of other Hexicans that are into health and have some knowledge and stuff about that, supplements and routines. Sure. I know you're big about the Motley list, about goals and stuff. I would love to have you back, man, with a couple of other guests, just to focus in on that aspect, because, I'd love for the Hex community to take a few of those tidbits and us become the healthiest, fittest people in crypto. We already are the happiest and the most positive, but I want us to be around for a long time. So I'd love to have you back to do some health and fitness stuff. Yeah.
Again, this is another reason why I truly fell in love with Richard and a lot of his teachings. Is it's all about getting rich is great. Getting rich with your friends and family and loved ones is even better. Being healthy and being able to enjoy that quality of life is important, that a lot of people don't get the chance to even really realize, because we're so busy working our 9 to 5, busting our butts to stay ahead. We don't get that chance to take care of ourselves. And so we can have not only a good long life, but a quality as we go through it, right? What good is life and money if you're sitting there and you have back pain, or you're overweight and you have medical conditions coming from it? So it's all about once your quality of life is great. And then this is kind of like that final little tidbit that Richard's done. And we've seen it with the raising the launch of PulseChain. He raised $27 million for Sins Foundation. Once you can only improve the quality of your life so much. And that's very important when it comes to our health and taking care of ourselves and our loved ones. After that, once you've gone to the apex of what you can with the quality, you want to move on to the quantity. And so it's just that longevity research, that Sins Foundation, continuing to keep the meat as good as long as possible, so all the brilliant people in this world can live longer and continue to just improve humanity and just better our fellow man, right? And this is how something as simple as a financial product can really change this place for this world for the better.
Yeah, it's funny how this community, we got together at Hex and Richard Hart stuff, and we're in cryptocurrency. We want to get wealthy. We want to have our time back. It's such a huge thing to be able to have this time back, and then now we can focus on other things like this health and fitness thing. It's really important to me. Man, this was a lot of fun, Motley. I've been wanting to get you on for a long time. I've known about you ever since Hex started. So it's great to actually, you mentioned earlier that you kind of know each other. I felt like I just know you. Yep. You're one of the family, one of the friends, but to actually see you face to face, looking forward to giving you a big handshake and a hug in Vegas. This was a blast for me. I always like to end by letting people know, where can they find you? I've got your Twitter right here, at Motley Investor on Twitter. But is there a better way to get in touch with you if people want to know more about you? Yeah,
Twitter's great. My handle is the same everywhere, so you can find me Motley Investor on YouTube, Twitter, Telegram, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, Motley Investor, across the board. So if you ever need anything, want anything, ideas, whatever, you can always reach out to me and I'll get to you, no problem.
Okay. I appreciate it, dude. Well, this has been a blast. We're looking at like an hour and 15 minutes and it just flies by.
It does.
I really appreciate your time and thanks for being on here, dude. We're going to have to do this again. I would love to get more people giving me ideas. Who do you want to hear from on the PulseChain podcast? So, what do you want me to cover? People in the audience reach out to me all the time, and it's hard to get some people because we live in different time zones and stuff, but I just want to make this a community, family podcast. So if you enjoy podcasts, whether you're doing a live commute or talking to friends or mowing the grass, reach out to people and tell them about the PulseChain podcast on Amazon or Spotify. But again, I appreciate you being here, Motley. I look forward to seeing you, and everybody watching this, thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys on the B side.
Let's go, JJ.